What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Monday and start to you guys' week. Hopefully, you guys also had a great weekend as well. All right, so we're going to get right into today's show. But before I do get into it, I want to make sure I point out, as always, guys, can keep the comments in the chat open. You guys' comments will pop up on the screen as we go throughout the duration of the show. So if you guys have any comments, questions, topics, or whatever you guys want me to address on today's show, leave it in the chat and we'll get right to it. With that being said, let's hop right into the weekend of fights. Now, obviously, this weekend is nowhere near the threshold of what last weekend was when we had Canelo, Bud, Patty Donovan, Lewis Crocker, Inoue, so on and so forth. But there still were a fair share of fights that went down this weekend and lots to talk about. The first one I want to get into, though, Oscar Collazo defeats Vayson by TKO in round 7. Okay, this was a performance that I saw coming. I thought Collazo was going to win the fight by KO. I think Collazo was incredible. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that fight. And at least I should say I have seen the finish in that fight. That's not a TKO. Now, hypothetically, it is going to go down as I just talked about. But that stoppage by the corner of Vayson is extremely skeptical. All due respect, Vayson was giving Collazo one of his toughest matchups he's had in a very long time, maybe his entire career. And all of a sudden, it was still a competitive fight. There was nothing wrong with Vayson. His corner threw in the towel. I think Collazo, Vayson, the entire crowd, the announcers, the ref, everybody was shocked. I really don't recall seeing something that bizarre by a corner. And they obviously know their fighter better than anybody else. But as far as I'm concerned, it didn't look like anybody in that entire place thought that fight should have been stopped at that point in time. So I'm still shocked. I'm still baffled to this point in time as to why they threw in the towel, because that fight should have still been going on much longer. Vayson was still having a chance in that fight. He was not beat up that badly. He was still competitive. He could have possibly edged himself out and won that fight. I'm just shocked by that. I don't know. Like I said, if you've seen the fight, go check out that stoppage. Let me know what you guys think about that. But in my personal opinion, nothing in that fight should have led to the point of them wanting to stop the fight there at 141 in the 7th round. Absolutely nothing. I was shocked when I saw it happen. I think everybody else was shocked. I don't know what happened. I mean, obviously, you talk about people on social media throwing out the terms of, was Vayson's corner betting on the fight, so on and so forth. I don't know. But it was that kind of a bad stoppage where I'm just shocked by it. But I will always say this. Trainers do know their fighters better than anybody else. And so if they throw in the towel, maybe they saw something or knew something that we did not know. But at least at this point in time, nobody's brought that point up. All we know is they stopped the fight. Collazo won the fight by TKO in round 7. Shocking right there. I don't know what happened, but I will be honest, though, in terms of Collazo's performance, I was a little bit disappointed. This is a man that I talked about on Friday's show as a possible man that's going to be a multi-weight world champion in the future. This is a man that I believe is extremely talented, and I still do believe that, but Vayson seemed to have a lot of the answers laid out for himself in that fight. Collazo is not the dominant self he usually is. He could not get the power off on him as he typically does on his opponents. He was just kind of having to go through a much more competitive fight than I think anybody expected. So it was not the most ideal performance by Collazo, but he still gets the TKO, and we move on from there. Let's go to the co-main event. Gabriela Fundora. She defeats Alexis by TKO in the 7th round with 43 seconds remaining in that round. I'll just make this very clear. Once again, it was an interesting stoppage, but let's be honest. Gabriela Fundora was absolutely putting a beating on her from start to finish. That fight had to be over with. And I think it's clear to say this. Gabriela Fundora is the future of women's boxing. She is. And when you talk about the Fundora name, it obviously is sensational. Sebastian Fundora doing his thing at 154 right now. But Gabriela Fundora has a legitimate chance to be that next star in women's boxing for the next decade plus. She is absolutely phenomenal. We are talking about somebody that's going to be winning a lot of belts at a lot of weight classes and dominate. Potentially will be pound for pound number 1 in the future one day. But what she's accomplishing right now, already defending undisputed world championships at her age, is something that very few women have ever been able to do. Very few boxers, I should say, have ever been able to do. And I think she deserves her flowers already. And I just honestly do not see her possibly even losing a fight for a very long time. So she had a phenomenal performance. Let's go into some other notable fights that went down this past weekend. Brandon Moore, the heavyweight from America, gets the unanimous decision win over DeAndre Savage. Very excellent performance there by Brandon Moore. He did his job. He called out Anthony Joshua, which, let me make this very clear. Obviously, he's going for the payday. I'm not disputing that. But what I will say about Brandon Moore here is this. There is a pathway to him possibly getting the AJ fight. And here's why. there is rumors of Anthony Joshua wanting to fight in Ghana, Africa in 2026, early 2026, possibly around January time. In that fight, I don't think it's going to be against somebody that's a high-ranked fighter at the heavyweight division. I think he's going to be looking for someone as a sort of a tune-up fight for himself. Brandon Moore is certainly one of those type of guys that you would consider a top 50 type fighter. He is talented. He's got a lot of game in himself. Do I think he's ready for AJ? Absolutely not. But when you talk about this situation for Brandon Moore, he is a very good fighter. I think he's got a good future. And I do think that there is a pathway to him landing that AJ fight. Not going to put money on it that it happens, but I'm just saying there is a pathway because I saw a lot of people kind of ruffle some feathers when he called out AJ saying there's no shot at that. There definitely is a shot for the Ghana fight in Africa in 2026. Kevin Alfa Hayler Brown, 8-0 man. He remained undefeated this weekend by the 10th round battle against Mexican warrior Juan Mizangola. Then Luis King Kong Ortiz returned with a first round KO victory versus Philip Penson. He's at the age of 46 years old now, still getting KOs for himself. Grant Flores, an up-and-coming prospect, he defeated Courtney Pennington by unanimous decision, 80-71 across two of the scorecards, 79-72 on the other one. Breyon Gorham defeats Yomar Alamo by unanimous decision in 10 rounds. Beautiful performance by him. I think Breyon Gorham is going to be a man that will be a top 15 ranked fighter possibly in the next 8 to 12 months, and then possibly going for a world championship fight by the back end of 2020, early 2027, mid 2027. This is a man that I think we all need to keep our eyes on. Very talented. OTX is doing phenomenal things with him right now. He's got a great corner of guys like Raymond Ford, Shakur Stevenson, kind of in his corner, helping him, mentor him along a little bit. I really like Breyon Gorham. I think he is going to be a star in the making, so keep an eye on him. Tiara Brown, she won by unanimous decision against Emma Gongora, defending her WBC World Featherweight title scores with the scores of 190, 98, 92, 98, 92 on the other one. And last but most certainly not least, SCOBY with the 8th round TKO victory over Alex Martin. He was doing his thing. Once again, another OTX man, but this man was fighting on an independent card this past weekend. He did his job, took care of business, looked very good, and he is somebody to really keep an eye on as well. Very entertaining fighter. He has a lot of stuff in his bag. I think he's somebody that's going to continue to work his way up, so keep an eye on him. All right, like I said in the beginning of the show, if you guys have any comments, questions, topics for me to address on the show today, leave it in the chat, and I'll make sure to address them. Your comments will also pop up on the screen, and so we can go back and forth there as well. Let's hop into some boxing news, though, now. I could have talked about this, and I even did plan that Bud Crawford, Canelo Alvarez topics were going to be done with for a little bit of time now after everything on last week's show talked about it. However, it was brought to my attention this past weekend that the rumored beef or the possible hypothetical fight between Terrence Bud Crawford and Ilia Topuria, the UFC superstar, that actually has a legitimate chance of being made. Now, obviously, Dana White's made his point very clear. He does not want that happening, and I don't think Terrence Bud Crawford takes that fight anytime soon either. But in terms of the fan base is really where I'm looking at. They are supposedly, and I'm still shocked by this, I thought this was not something that anybody actually wanted to see. But I guess, according to a lot of fans out there, people actually want to go out there and see the man that is now number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world in Terrence Bud Crawford fight the number one pound-for-pound fighter in all the UFC, or is debatably number one pound-for-pound, in Ilia Topuria. Let me be honest about this real quickly. Obviously, what we're going to be looking at here is a situation where they're both trying to say that they are redoing Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. But let me stop you in your tracks real quickly right there. This fight would not even reach even the atmosphere of what that fight was between Floyd Money Mayweather and Conor McGregor. All due respect, I love Terrence Bud Crawford, and Ilia Topuria is a phenomenal UFC fighter that I think is very entertaining. I love him as well in that regard. But we have to recall, I don't think we're ever going to be in a situation where we can match what Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather did. And why, you might ask that? Well, listen, both Floyd Money Mayweather and McGregor were both the biggest names in their respective sports at that point in time. They both are two of the most talked about names and biggest names in not just combat sports history, but sports history. They're tier one in terms of the biggest names in sports history. And both guys were at the peak or near the peak of that fame. And on top of that, both guys were in their primes, or at least very near their primes. When you added all those aspects together, you had what was formed to be this super mega fight between McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. You cannot say the same about Bud Crawford and Ilia Topuria. Now, don't get me wrong, that fight would still sell great. It would do incredible numbers. It still would be a mega fight, but it's nowhere near the threshold of what McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather was. When you talk about Bud Crawford, yes, he is debatably the number one pound-for-pound fighter in all the world today. That does not mean he's the biggest name. The most talented and the biggest name are very different things. Off the top of my head, you have Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, you have Canelo Alvarez, you have even Gervonta Tank Davis. Manny Pacquiao is still fighting. These guys all have names that are significantly larger than Bud Crawford. When Floyd Mayweather fought the man in Conor McGregor, Floyd Money Mayweather was the biggest name in all boxing. That's not the case for Bud Crawford today. And for Ilia Topuria, there's a very good chance you could say he is the biggest name in MMA and UFC today, but that's still debatable. It's not like it was with McGregor where, without a shadow of a doubt, he is the biggest name in MMA. So would I mind seeing this fight? I mean, it is what it is, but I don't really want to see it anytime soon. If I'm Ilia Topuria, there's a lot more he can accomplish within the reins of the UFC in the octagon. A lot more he can accomplish. He can grow his name, become a bigger name, a household name, possibly go to the Islam fight, whatever it might be. Many big fights for Ilia Topuria. And for Bud Crawford, he's going to probably take at least 8 months outside of the ring again, possibly even a year until he returns. That's even if he does return. And what I think he will do is go fight at 160. Now, could I see this fight, if both guys continue to win and flourish and grow their names, maybe happen in the year of 2027? Sure. As Bud Crawford's potential final fight of his career to get to himself to somewhere in the mid-40s or whatever it might be, I could certainly see that happening. But what I do not see happening is Ilia Topuria and Bud Crawford fighting anytime soon. Dana White obviously has a great connection. Turkey Al Sheikh could push for it if he wants it, but I just don't see anybody really wanting to make this fight happen. Because let's just be honest right now. Neither guy's branding and name will compare to what Floyd versus McGregor was. And on top of that, we're talking about two guys that the fight would be very obvious. Anybody that thinks Ilia Topuria beats Bud Crawford in boxing is ridiculous. Bud Crawford's debatably the number one pound-for-pound fighter in all the world. He's not losing to Ilia Topuria. Does Topuria have phenomenal power? And I mean scary knockout power. Of course. But that doesn't mean it's going to carry over when you put the boxing gloves on and you fight a man in Bud Crawford who has incredible defense and you can't obviously set up kicks and can't grapple, can't do any of those things. Bud Crawford would beat Ilia Topuria in boxing. And I don't think that really is something that's really controversial to say. And obviously, if they hypothetically were to do an MMA fight, the same thing applies, but vice versa. Ilia Topuria would easily defeat Bud Crawford in MMA. Sure, this is combat sports. Could Ilia Topuria hypothetically go land a miraculous KO and KO Bud Crawford? Sure. Could Bud Crawford land a miraculous KO in the first couple of seconds before he gets taken to the ground against Ilia Topuria? Sure. But let's just be honest. There's a 99.9% chance that Bud Crawford beats Topuria in a boxing ring, and a 99.9% chance that Ilia Topuria defeats Bud Crawford in the octagon. So is this fight really something that people want? If it is, fine. Make it. If the money is right, make it later on in 2027 or whatever the case may be. But I just don't see that fight getting made anytime soon, and to be honest, I really hope it does not get made anytime soon. Other boxing news. Janibek versus Carlos Adames is rumored to be co-main of Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. Remember, that fight is near agreement. The Teofimo and Shakur Stevenson one. For January, it's going to be a Saudi-funded card. I don't know where that would take place. I know rumors say it could be New York, but that fight's going to be going down early in 2026. I've already given my thoughts on that. I'm excited for that fight. But if we have a chance that the most anticipated fight at 160, a unification that would unify 3 of the belts at 160 between Janibek and Carlos Adames, if that gets made, we're in the making for another phenomenal card. That would be one of the most spectacular main and co-main events that we have seen. Absolutely phenomenal. You could argue that that could flip-flop. Either one could be main event. Obviously, they'll give it to Shakur and Teofimo Lopez, but still, incredible fight right there. I hope Turkey Al Sheikh can pull that together because this is a fight that I've been talking about for so long, and I think it makes the most sense. Obviously, Laura's sitting out there as well. A fun fighter at 160. I do believe that's who Bud Crawford will end up fighting, but he's out there. But everybody, for the most part, people want Janibek, Carlos Adames. And to be honest with you, that's the fight I want as well. So if Turkey Al Sheikh can pull the trigger and get that fight made, I think all boxing fans would be grateful for that opportunity. David Benavidez says he'll be interested in a fight with Canelo Alvarez after he becomes the undisputed light heavyweight champion. I've always given David Benavidez his props for this. And I've also always said that for Canelo Alvarez, I'm somebody that wants him to take the Benavidez fight, but I understand why he doesn't take it. However, Now that Canelo Alvarez has lost to Terrence Bud Crawford, he has lost a lot of the draw and leverage, I should say, that he had on David Benavidez in that situation. Canelo's fine. He's set financially. He'll go down as one of the wealthiest boxers to ever box, and he's set for life. He still has his rehab season contract, but what I am interested in is what David Benavidez proposed. David Benavidez hypothetically says he's going to become undisputed world champion at light heavyweight. And I have to imagine that would be quite intriguing to Canelo Alvarez. All this time he's talked about money, money, money. Benavidez needs to give me the right money. I need to be a massive paycheck. That's the only way to take that fight. But if Benavidez does his job, he takes care of business and cleans out light heavyweight, becomes undisputed champion of the world, I have to imagine in the back of Canelo Alvarez's mind, he's going to at least consider that fight. Because that would be great. He's already won and become world champion at light heavyweight. But becoming undisputed at light heavyweight would mean a whole different thing for him. And if he could do that at his age as well, would be phenomenal. I would favor David Benavidez in that fight, to be honest with you. However, this is very interesting. And I'll give props to David Benavidez for actually wanting to do whatever it takes to make this fight happen. That would likely put this fight not happening until... It really depends. I don't know if Better Biev and Bivol when they fight and if they move to light heavy or cruiserweight, whatever the case may be. There's so many options on the table right now. But I don't think Benavidez could even become undisputed until mid to late 2026. So this fight with Canelo could possibly wrap up in 2027 as Canelo's last fight, at least one of them. So massive props to Benavidez. I would love to see that fight. I've always been very vocal about that. And if they can get that fight made, I would be all for it. Ryan Garcia is expecting to make a fight announcement very soon. He put out a tweet today in which he talks about saying that fight announcement could be coming in the near future. It makes you wonder, though, what could be on the table? Obviously, Devin Haney's fighting Brian Norman Jr., so he's off the table. Obviously, for Ryan Garcia, I don't think he's going to get the Roy Romero fight because Manny Pacquiao's in talks with Roy Romero. So it'll be interesting. Where does Garcia go from here? If I were in his shoes, I would say, listen, I have to get my confidence back. I need to do something. I'm not a big tune-up fight man, and obviously Roy Romero was a tune-up fight, but go out there, find your right opponent, pick him to a guy in which you know you can knock out, and go get your motivation, your confidence back up again. Because the Ryan Garcia that we witnessed fight on the Times Square card, that was not the Ryan Garcia. And I know there's a lot of skepticism out there. Hey, was it the PEDs? Was it this, that, and the third? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. I'm not going to take one fight and say this is the new Ryan Garcia. I don't like how people typically do that. I will look at the at-large picture, and we don't have enough data yet of post-PED Ryan Garcia. So if I were Ryan Garcia, go do an easy tune-up fight where you can get your knockout and you can move on. Last thing on today's show, unless anybody else has any comments you guys want me to talk about on the show, is in regards to Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. So today was the very first press conference for this fight. And I don't want to hate on the press conference, okay? I'm not someone who likes to go out and hate. But what I will say is this, and this is coming from somebody that is not a big fan of press conferences. I never get entertained by them. I think a lot of it's just fake. It's made up. I like stuff that's real. I like what goes down in the boxing ring. I've never been a big fan of press conferences. Sometimes they do get entertaining. For the most part, they're not entertaining whatsoever. But I felt like something was off today. And I might be wrong. Maybe you guys saw it differently. But the energy was not there at all. Especially for a Jake Paul fight. When Jake Paul is involved in these build-ups for fights, he is a phenomenal entertainer, and he still did his best. He brought the clowns out. He brought all this weird stuff, made a lot of accusations, all the different things he brought up. He kind of did his part, but the atmosphere, the energy just was not there. In my personal opinion, I felt like Tank Davis was in a whole nother world on that press conference. He was not really utilizing his brain a lot, I felt like some of his answers were just not really well thought out. He didn't have any energy. He didn't know when the fight dates were. He was confused about the fight weight. All this stuff just seemed very odd. And maybe that was their game plan. Maybe, I don't know. But if you are Tank Davis, it just does not feel like the right way to promote the fight. Maybe I'm wrong again. But if I were a fighter fighting in this fight, trying to promote it, I would not be sitting up on that stage saying, hey, when's this fight happening again? What weight am I fighting at? It does not make a lot of sense to me. So for me personally, I felt like it did nothing to build the fight up. I didn't think it was entertaining. I thought it was kind of weird. I felt the energy, the vibe was off 100%. I didn't feel like it grew the fight and hyped the fight up whatsoever. Now, there's still multiple other press conferences they're going to do in the next couple of weeks as they build up for November fight date. But still, I'll just say the very first press conference was very weird in my eyes. Let's go into the news that did come out, though. There's been a lot of rumors as to what this fight will entail in terms of how many minutes, the rounds, the glove size, so on and so forth. All of that has now been cleared up. Here's the details. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis has been revealed that the maximum weight will be at 195 pounds. It will be 10 3-minute rounds, 12-ounce gloves, USADA testing. 3 commission-approved judges will score every round to ensure that there is a decisive outcome for the fight if it goes the distance. Also, this is obviously going to be an exhibition fight. So there's your details. At least we know that this will be an exhibition fight. When we look at Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis, don't let yourself get all confused and act like this is going to be a real fight. It's not. This is going to be something for show. It's entertainment. We're in the entertainment brand, so everything boxing is always entertainment, but this is going to be more so along the lines of a WWE type fight. What do I mean by that? It's exhibition. Do I think one of these two guys get knocked out? No. Would I bet on this fight? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, this does not go on either guy's resume. The payday is going to be massive for both guys. That's why they're making the fight happen. Look, just to begin with, just look at the weight class differences. I do not know what Tank Davis will come in at. My guess is it's not going to be any higher than 150, and that's probably stretching it drastically. I'm saying that's the absolute maximum. If I were to make a hypothetical guess, I'm calling it 142 to 145. Jake Paul will weigh in at 195 or right around there and probably inflate back up to 205 or something along those lines. This fight, just off that weight class in of itself, shows this is a complete joke. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I'll be honest. It's for entertainment purposes only. Don't take it seriously. It is what it is. 12-ounce gloves, I'm a little surprised they're that low. When they started having the rumors that glove size, I thought it'd be 16s, but they're going to utilize 12 for this fight. And then, as I said, testing, they will have approved judges, but the judges, it is what it is. This is an exhibition fight. Don't let your mind get too hyped up that this is going to be a legitimate fight. These two guys are going to go out there. They're going to go put on an entertainment show, make it fun, make it interesting, and then cash out and hug each other after the fight, knowing that they both made a massive bank. It is what it is. At the end of the day, these two guys are going to get big bags. I cannot fault them for doing it, as much as I do not like Tank Davis doing this fight. They're going to get big bags. Cannot shoot the man for doing that. It is what it is, and we'll carry on with that business. So, yes, those are the official rules for this fight. Obviously, it's going to be exhibition once again, so don't put too much stake into this fight, and definitely do not bet on this fight. Do not do it. With that being said, though, I will be back live tomorrow. Actually, I do not see any more comments on the show, so we'll wrap the show with that. I will be back live tomorrow evening, most likely, for a show, which we'll get right into some more boxing topics. More guests will be on the show on Wednesday. Tomorrow, I have no guests on, so I'll see you guys back live tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of you guys Monday. I will see you guys back live tomorrow. May God bless you guys all. And with that being said, SchuZ out. God bless you guys.